So that's what we look at today is titled Finding What Meant. It is also a title of Bert Hellinger's book. He had, Acknowledging What Is was the first book. And then the second book was Finding What Meant. I translated it like that. Probably not the official translation. It's in German. Die Mitte fühlt sich leicht an. And that is where you, oder finden, was wirkt. Sorry, this was another book. Finden, was wirkt. And that is like when you have learned in module 1 the orders of love. Remember the three? Shall we quickly go over it? 3 orders of love. What was the first order? Kimberly?
Belonging.
Yes, wonderful. The second order?
Order of precedence.
Yes, very
comes
good.
first?
Who comes first? Precedence, yes. And the third order?
Balance in giving and receiving.
Very good. The order of balance. Very good. Awesome. Well done. So these are the 3 orders of love, Bert Hellinger's orders of love. Now that we have established in which order the family system wants to naturally align to in order to let the love flow, now we need to find what can we do if the order is disturbed, right? So first we have to establish, okay, there is a disturbance in order 1, 2, or 3, or in both, or in all 3, yeah? And then we go step by step, what can we do? How can we help as a facilitator to find that what lets the love flow again, what mends the family wound, yeah? That's what we look at this module. So we are in particularly looking at the power of words, yes, please, and thank you. And the relationship of these words in the orders of love. Yeah. So in part 1, that is today, we look at the orders of words in general. We look at the word yes. We look at the 3 patterns of relationship. Then we look at dynamics in family systems. And we look at the first dynamic that I want to introduce you to, that is called reparations or atonement for my sins. Tomorrow, we are looking at the word please. We are looking at the second dynamic in family system, which is called rather me than you. We are looking at what is the morphogenetic field, and we are looking at the sole cause of severe or fatal disease. And then in day 3, we are looking at the third word, thank you. The third dynamic, I follow you. And we are finding finally what mends through words, gestures, eyes, and movement. So that's what you can expect from this weekend. So today we are looking at the healing power of the word yes. We are finding out what is to be acknowledged. The orders in this word, that there is a certain order in this word, and what that means. We are looking at the word yes. We are looking at the 3 patterns of relationship and dynamics in family system. And finally, we are looking at the first dynamic, atonement or reparation for my sins. So now let's start. Acknowledging What Is also the book title of Bert Hellinger's first book. Who has read it? Or you have, right, Jana? What do you think about it? Do you remember?
Liked.
You liked it? Yeah.
Yes, I liked what stands out quickly is how powerful direct and frank words are. Yes, saying exact, like I killed you, or right.
Yeah, very powerful. Acknowledging what is means that you know the truth, or you find the truth, and you admit it. That's acknowledging what is. And surprisingly, this is already the most important healing step. And that not only goes for family constellation, it goes for life as well. You know, You remember this phrase, when you're sitting in a hole, stop digging?
No.
Okay. So imagine you're sitting in a hole, you want to get out of the hole. Would you start, continue to dig? Or would you just stop digging and acknowledging that you're sitting in a hole? And when you acknowledge that you sit in a hole, digging doesn't get you out, right? So acknowledging what is on one hand kind of naturally, and on the other hand, if you're emotionally involved, difficult, because you don't see really that you're sitting in a hole. Yeah. And that's what we need to help with the soul, to reveal its situation. For example, with the words, I killed you.
Mm-hmm.
And that already moves the soul towards healing. That's probably the biggest step ever. And the good news is, once you experience and you practice this over and over again, it's really easy to do. And in a family constellation, when you're facilitating, you will always find the way back to the structure of it and to a starting point when you lose a little bit oversight what's going on. You can always come back and acknowledge and find that what needs acknowledgement. That's the easiest thing to do. So, therefore, acknowledgement what is always at the start of a family constellation. We are not jumping in anywhere else. That's what we do. We start a family constellation, finding where is the, let's say, the strongest dynamic, the strongest emotion, the strongest energy, or what is the most obvious acknowledgement through observation. And then we have already, if you think about a ball of yarn that is completely intertwined and, like a mess. Yeah, like imagine your cat has played with it. Yeah? You only need to find the beginning. One of the beginnings has two normally, yeah? And then from there you can unravel it. Patiently, step by step, no problem. But as long as you don't find the beginning, you can do nothing. Right? And that is what we do with acknowledging what is. We find the beginning and acknowledge that. And that's the first pull on the yarn. Then we have already a longer thread, if you will. Right? And so we continue. Kimberly, was that a question?
Well, I wanted to add that I'm finding that when I'm doing these constellations that, more stuff is popping up all around that needs to be constellated, and I have to really focus on the one I'm working on. Like you can see so many other ones, and that really takes, focusing on what is, like it is, what is this? Because once you start it, there's so many more.
Yes, you have also to acknowledge what is the most important, right?
Exactly.
So that's another acknowledgement. That's also how you start a family constellation. What is the most important dynamic here? What do I see? The acknowledgement is the fundamental. That's the fundament for a movement of the soul. Yeah. First of all, you have to find what is true. So that's one part. And then you have to admit it out loud. It doesn't just, one doesn't go without the other. If you admit it and it is not true, it doesn't do anything. And if you find what is true and you don't admit it, it's not doing anything neither. Yeah. So these go together like a pair of shoes. Yeah. And interestingly, over the course of time, you might forget about the one or the other because, you are fluidly in the facilitation. Yeah. And you think, oh, well, that's so clear. Everybody can see that, but that's not the point. Yeah. The representative you are working with needs to admit it, even though it's crystal clear what's going on. If it's hard to do, if it sounds hard or unconventionally, that's okay. In fact, that is the right thing to say. If it is nice, if it is slang, if it is unprecise, it's the wrong thing to say. Yeah. It needs to be to the point. And when you watch the old Bert Hellinger videos, which on our community site, when you are signed up for the complete training and you have access to it, you see all the old Bert Hellinger videos. He is very, very short and brief in what he suggests to say to the representatives, and sometimes really, really harsh. Yeah. And that's totally fine. That's totally okay. We are not, as a facilitator, there to please any ego mind. We are talking directly to the soul. Yeah. So the observation is key, and that's what you basically train. You train to observe. Of course, you need to know what you're looking for. This is why we have the teaching content. But then the practical part is to train observation, so that you're not missing out the hints that you get from the morphogenetic field that are telling you where to look for the truth. Yeah? The words that are to the point, that are conveying the truth, and that needs to be admitted, are normally starting with, I did this, I see this, I feel this. We are using most often the present tense when we're working with representatives, but if we are talking about killing, then we use the past tense, because obviously the killing has taken place. So when you're working with a perpetrator and victim situation, then you know the victim has died. Yeah. So that is not true to say I kill you. It's true to say I killed you. Yeah. But it is true to say I see you, no? And not just because you're working with an ancestor and they have passed away like 100 years ago, you're not saying I have seen you. You're not saying that, because it's taking place now. I see you now. Yeah. So in the constellation, everything is in present tense other than when somebody has killed somebody. And I feel this is also something you can acknowledge. Yeah. I am angry. It's a really important and strong movement of the soul when somebody acknowledging that, because normally strong emotions, especially anger, are camouflaged by other ones, by other emotions. They are not coming through necessarily. So there are hints, and we talk about that in body language and so on, how to see when there's the underlying anger, and then that needs to be admitted. Okay. So the power of words, yes, thank you, and please, have their own right, but they also have a relationship to each other. And we will talk about that now in order to apply them in the right order to have the most out of the movement of the soul, or to help the most the souls to move. The sequence in which you suggest the representative to say these words depends on the relationship. And this is why we need to find out the 3 patterns of relationship. Instead, or in addition to the words, we also have the so-called sentences of resolution. Sentences of resolution are a set of pre-defined sentences that are in certain circumstances the most powerful to move the soul, instead or in addition to yes, please, and thank you. However, every sentence of resolution can also be translated as either a yes, please, or thank you. There is nothing else. And I give you right here a little exercise for the weekend. When you hear people talking, or you hear yourself talking, yeah, and find out with every sentence you say or you hear, are they saying yes, thank you, or please? Right? And if they say neither, none of them, then it is not, let's say, healing for the soul or soothing the soul. Yeah. And then also, as a little exercise, when you say something, before you say it, find out, are you now saying yes, thank you, or please to your partner that you're talking to? Before you say it. And then if you know the one you're talking, if it's a friend or family member or partner, then you can also, instead of saying the whole sentence, say only yes, thank you, or please, and see what the reaction is. Yeah. So that's a little bit of an exercise to get you into the field and the power of words and to observe how they move, right? So let's look at the pattern of relationship. We have 3. The good thing is family constellation, when I teach you how to facilitate, is you always need to count to 3. There's no more than 3. And we all can do that. So we have 3 orders of love. We have 3 powerful words. We have 3 patterns of relationship. And there will be more 3s coming. So that's as easy as that. We have the mother-father to child relationship, which is a yes only. Only yes. So a parent to a child only says yes. A parent doesn't say please or thank you to the child on a soul level, right? I'm not talking about please pass me the butter, child, on the breakfast table, right? We're talking here about the soul level. The parents, first order of love, belonging. Second order of love, precedence. The parents came first. Yeah. The children came after. Yeah. The parents don't want anything from the children, so they don't say please. Yeah. And they don't have to thank the children for anything because they give and the children receive, remember? So there's only the yes that parents say to children. Yes, I love you. Yes, I have given you life. Yes, I have nourished you. Yes, I support you. You know, it's always a yes. Now, why is this important to learn? Because in a family constellation situation, when there is a parent and a child represented, and the parent want to say anything else than yes, what do you think is going on there? Kimberly, did you say?
There's a block in the flow of love.
Exactly. We have a destruction of the orders of love.
Mm-hmm.
So we know, aha, here is where we need to work. Right? So you're not only using these words to apply them, you're also using these words to test the field, to get information. You know, one of my trainees said something really nice. He said, I love this work. It's like a detective work. You have to solve a mystery. And you are kind of interrogating the representatives in a certain way to find out what's the truth. Right? And that's very, very true, actually. So there's only the yes, and if a parent is urged to say anything else, then we have an interrupted, then we have a disruption of the orders of love. Then there is a second relationship that is from the child to a parent. Now, from the child to the parent, they have all 3 words, but they come in a certain order. Always a please at the beginning, then comes a thank you, and then comes the yes. The please come first because the please is, please, I need you. Because without the parents, the child wouldn't exist. Right? It's already started before conception. The child says please to their future parents, please get together and make love so I can come, you know? So the please is very early there from on the soul level. And it continues throughout, you know, growing up in the womb of the mother, giving birth, being nourished, until this child grows up. And if there's no trauma, which is practically impossible, and as long as you're not part of an indigenous tribe who has, you know, raising their children in the most natural way. But just imagine there would be no trauma for this child. Then there would be a certain age, late teenage years, where this please turns naturally into a thank you. Right. There is no dependency anymore. This child is not emotionally depending, not physically depending on the parent anymore, and can wholeheartedly say, thank you for everything I have received, everything you have given to me. This thank you does not come naturally when there is a trauma, because the trauma keeps the child, the adult, in the emotional state of the child that is in need of please. So when we work in family constellation with mother or father-child relationship, mostly mother, but also father, there is over 90% where the please needs to be said. Because for the thank you and yes is barely any relevance. No. Because we're working on the trauma of the child. And that is where the please helps. However, when we have a row of traumas, we call that interrupted movements towards the mother throughout the generations of the mothers, and we will talk about that in module 4 in great detail, then we need the thank you and the yes. So this former mother can actually pass on the love to their children, because in the state of please, you cannot pass on the love. It is still stuck. So we have to go through please, thank you, and yes in a row of interrupted movements. And then, of course, we also use the thank you in other resolutions that we need between the child and the father, which I will talk you through, but it's tomorrow. Yeah. But as a general rule, these are the orders of words in a child to mother and father relationship. Please, thank you, and then at the very end is only a yes. There is no giving and taking anymore. No need for please and thank you. There's only yes. I accept you as you are. You know, as my parents, I love you unconditionally. And then the third is equal, partner to partner. And I'm not only talking about romantic relationships, that is every relationship, for example, victim and perpetrator, every relationship that is not parent-child. Or ancestors. Ancestors have been also parents, right? Every other family member is face-to-face, yeah? Although it's probably not perceived in society as such. For example, victim-perpetrator is often perceived that the victim is kind of up here and the perpetrator up here or something like that. Not in the orders of love. There's no flow of love. There's the lake situation. They are at the same level. And here the orders of words is yes, and then please, and then thank you. It starts with a yes, and the way you can memorize it, if you think of a romantic relationship and the marriage, where you say yes to each other. That's how the marriage begins. Yeah. So you always have to start every relationship with a yes, because otherwise there would not even be a relationship. If you're not acknowledging the others as being present and there, yeah, then you're not relating to this person. So that every relationship starts with a yes. And that is already right here the problem in a victim-perpetrator relationship. That either the perpetrator, out of the feeling of guilt, or the victim, out of the feeling of shame, is not able to say yes to its counterpart. Yeah. So after the yes, yes, I see you, yes, I'm relating to you, yes, we are level, we are here, yeah, then is the please to intensify the relationship. Please, yeah, give me something, Give me your love, please. Give me your time. Give me your affection. You know, whatever you can think of. And then when this intensifying of the relationship has taken place, because everything that has a beginning has an end, right? So a relationship begins and ends at one stage. Maybe with the death of a person, but maybe most often before, because they are temporary relationships. So at the end of a relationship is a thank you. Thank you meaning everything I have received is balanced now. Thinking of the third order of love. And I let you free, and I'm free too. So let's go to the sentences of a resolution. They are coming from the field, and this is why they can sound a little bit weird. Yeah, so they don't need to be Oxford English or you know, in any way, shape, or form elaborate. They are simple, to the point, and they don't even need to be grammatically correct. So that's a good thing if English is not your mother tongue, which is like for me, then you can't make really mistakes if you're following the sentences of resolution connected to the field. They don't come from the mind. They cannot be thought up. This is why I would like you to learn a certain set, not too many, sentences of resolution and use them all over again when you practice. You don't need to make them up. These are the best sentences you can ever have, even, and they are never getting boring. Not for the people you work with. Yeah, they never get boring. So when do they come from the mind? So first of all, when you know how that is when your eyes goes up like this. If you watch yourself in the mirror, you never do that, but others see you. Then you're in your mind. Eyes up, mind. Yeah. Eyes down, field. Yeah. So when you know by the involuntarily eye movements, if you would have a mirror or the camera online, if you're thinking about a sentence of resolution or if you are receiving it. Yeah. Secondly, if it's short and to the point, it comes from the field. If it's a little bit lengthy and kind of explanatory, then it comes from the mind. You will see that in my workshops that I sometimes go to the lengthy words. That is, and I'm aware that it's not coming from the field. That is solely to guide the representative because they are not quite connected to the field. So that there is a room for that, but it's not a sentence of resolution. Don't mix that up. It is a guidance, if you will, to guide somebody a little bit along the way. But if you come to the point where you need a sentence of resolution, you can either take yes, please, or thank you, or you can take one of the sentences that are set, or of course you can also do your own, but make sure that they are coming not from the mind, that they are coming from the field, and then you have them in your toolkit when you have received them. Remember the plumber's box where you put all your tools in when you come to a person to fix their soul, like a plumber would fix a leaking tap. Yeah. And that's one of them. So this is your mantra. They are always concerned, these sentences of resolution, with reconciliation or honor and respect. Nothing else. That's it. We are always, when we suggest somebody saying something in a family constellation, it either is for the flow of love or to honor and respect. Let's make a little test our three powerful words. Yeah. What is yes concerned with? Reconciliation or honor and respect? Yes, you go.
yes is respect.
Any other opinion?
I think it's love. Flow and love.
Yeah.
Reconciliation.
Yeah. Yes is always a yes, I love you. I mean, in theory, you can say everything. Yes, I respect you. Yes, of course you can say that. But on a soul level, yes is always the yes, I love you. As you are. As you are. No judgment. Yes, Suman?
You answered my question.
Okay. So this is the yes, the real yes is unconditional love. And remember when I said acknowledging what is with a yes, I did that, yes, yes. This is setting the flow of love into motion. This is the most powerful word for the flow of love when it is the truth for the soul. Okay. What is about please?
Honor and respect.
Correct. And this is you can memorize with please is like acknowledging that I'm the smaller and you are the bigger. Yeah. So I'm in need. Please is I need. Please I need. Just think of the butter of the breakfast table. Even when you say please pass me the butter, is I need the butter for my toast. Yeah. So simple. So this is how you can remember it. Please is always I am in need. I'm in a state of need. I need something, and you are the one who can give it to me. Yeah. And therefore I honor and respect you. And what's about the thank you?
Can it be all of them? Both of them?
More honor and respect as well. Yeah. Like, thank you. I now have received everything I need. Thank you. I thank you for your blessing. So this is how you can remember that. So we need all the three words, and the word yes is what brings the flow of love. Because before you find that what meant, the yes wasn't available. Maybe a please, maybe a thank you, but not a yes. And you need to find this yes to set the flow of love in motion. So sentences of resolution are very simple, and they speak directly to the soul. They are either true, reflecting the energy as is, or not true. Yeah. And in this case, when they are not true, you find a sentence that is true, and that is often the opposite. So when you ask the representative to say, I hate you, to expressing a feeling that is true, and then the representative said, I don't think I can say that, or even says, I don't think that's true, then you say, okay, then say, I love you. And that would be most often the truth. So there is no right and wrong. You don't need to nail it. That's not your, that's not what you do as a facilitator. You are inquiring and finding out what is true. But then once you have the truth, then you know what is dynamic you see and how to go further with that. Yeah. So that's the detective work, if you will, to find that out what is true. So they are used since decades by Bert Hellinger and all his disciples. So use them literally. There's nothing wrong with using that. There's no copyright. You don't need to pay for it. You just use them literally. Yeah. And remember, they depend on the relationship, and you can also use it to test out the relationship. So if you have two representatives and you don't know what you're seeing at, you don't know, is this now a victim-perpetrator relationship, or is that a mother-child or father-child or ancestor-descendant relationship, then you can try with these words. Then when you know the orders of words, right? And then you see, right, what relationship you're looking at. So if you ask one of the representatives to say to the other yes, and they said, I can't say that, then you ask, try please. And then when they say, please, yeah, please, that feels right, then you know that you have a child parent relationship here. Because you're talking to the soul. They will tell you what they need, what is true. They will not lie to you. You can trust it. There is no lying going on there, right? Or disguising or anything like this. So these feedbacks will guide you in your facilitation. Okay. So the yes has a set of sentences of resolution that we use all over again. One very strong one is, yes, I take on this life with everything it entails. That is, somebody who was entangled is able to say yes to his destiny as a healing process. Yes, I take this life even at the cost of yours. That is also acknowledging the destiny, yeah, to live on even if somebody has caused the death of somebody else. Instead of paying, and that's what we are talking about later, reparation for your sins is instead of paying for a feeling of guilt through disease or something else. Unsuccess in life, struggling, suffering. So this is a strong sentence, acknowledging what is, yeah. Or it's my death and my fate, and I alone carry it. That's the entangler, the one who was somebody your client was entangled with, yeah? After the entanglement has been cleared. By leaving it to me, you are honoring my life and fate. Yeah, honor and respect. Because you will see that entanglements are causing this problem that the descendant who is entangled with the forefather is not really honoring their life, that it was their life, not their own. Right. And now we have this problem that is we are concerned now with honor and respect, right? And we need a sentence of resolution for that. So, dynamics not to apply the yes. When a relationship, a movement needs to be acknowledged, we have a yes, right? We went through that. Everything can be acknowledged as a yes when it is true. So, could be at any stage of the constellation. When an unbalance or an entanglement is still observed, then don't apply a yes. Yeah, it's too early. So go through the trauma and find what was the hidden or the underlying cause for it. And then you unravel it with a yes from there. So not too early also. So we apply the yes by acknowledging what is, or to move forward, flow of love, move forward. Getting support of parents or ancestors by acknowledging, or that's more honor and respect, of course. Most importantly, at the beginning of a relationship, think of the wedding, the yes. There is no relationship without a yes at the beginning. And of course, we are not only thinking about romantic relationships, right? Could be any other. That is not parent-child. So when do we not apply a yes? When still in need for love. That's most common. Yeah, being in the traumatized child energy, in the need of please, no yes is applied. Why am I saying that? Is because you will see that some representatives that are representing a traumatized child facing the mother in this example, they want to say yes, yeah, because they don't want to say please, because the please hurt, and the yes doesn't. The yes comes easy, the please not. And if you don't know of the orders of love, you would be happy with the yes. But no movement takes place. It needs to be the please. When the victim cannot look at the perpetrator, yeah, you cannot apply yes, because you cannot ask a representative to relate with the word yes to somebody else when they're not looking at them. The looking away makes it impossible to say yes. And that not only goes for the victims, goes for every representative in the family constellation. Yes can only be said, or yes, please and thank you, can only be said if somebody looks at somebody. The yes towards the parent is, this is in honor and respect you as my parent. That's the yes that comes after the please and after the thank you, remember, and then comes the yes, right? And then we have, you are the big one and I am the small one. That's also, this is a little acknowledgement, yeah? When the please doesn't come, and we will talk about that in module 4, when the please doesn't come, when the child is so traumatized that it cannot say please, yeah, you can use a yes to guide it there, but you cannot be satisfied with the yes alone. So this yes is just a means to achieve the please. Do you understand what I mean? The please is too hard to say, the yes is easy to say. Yeah? So now we ask the child to say, the representative of the child to say, yes, you are the big one, I'm the small one. That's just acknowledging what is, acknowledging the natural fact, the order. Yes, you have given life to me. Yes, I wouldn't exist without you. You know, they can say that because it's simple truth. They cannot say no to that. And through this little steps of yes, then at the end you have to ask them, now say, please, I need you. And then they will. While when you wouldn't have the little steps with the yes, they would not say, please, I need you. They say, I can't say that. Because there's this trauma, this emotional trauma, this blockage to move towards the mother. I honor you and your life journey, your soul purpose. Yeah, that is especially when the child had problems with judging the parents for their choices. What goes on between the two of you has nothing to do with you, with me. Is also the yes towards the parent after the please and the thank you. When the parents do something that together that the child had struggled with before. For example, they were, let's say something, they were in an abusive relationship, yeah. And the child thinks, no, they shouldn't be together, right? But the parents want to stay together. Second order of love, their choice, not the business of the child. That needs to be also acknowledged. What else do we have? I acknowledge the love between you and I'm not in the place to judge that. That's another sentence for the same thing. The yes, of course, the strongest yes towards the parents is always without you, I won't exist, because that's simple truth. And this is why we always work, remember, first order of love, who belongs with the blood-related parents. Yeah, because they are the one who have formed the body for the soul journey, not the caregivers. Yeah. You gave me life is the same. And then you can think up other words in your own words that you might, you know, just as an exercise that you might want to use or say or train with, that comes from the field. Okay, the yes towards the children from the parents. There's only the yes, and you can, and sometimes the yes is good, but sometimes you want a sentence of resolution. So that would be, I give you my blessings on your way. You are free to do whatever you want to do is the strongest yes a parent can give their children. My love will always be with you. I will always look at you with love. That's just different wordings. I'm here when you need me. Yes, I'm here when you need me. Right. So in a family constellation, the parents are never rushing towards the child. You always have to stop the parent, stay. The children have to go to the parent. Yeah. The children are in need to receive. So they have to go and get it. The act of giving is not an act, it's an open, it's an allowing. Yeah, it's not an act of giving, it's an allowing. But then the taking or the receiving is actually what they do, what the children do. They need to do that. So this is why the parent says, I'm here when you need me, not going to the child in the constellation and say, I love you. Lots of representatives want to do that. They are feeling this outpouring love when they're in the role of a parent, yeah, and they just want to run to this child and hug it. Yeah, you have to stop that. Yeah, because the soul of the child needs to move, not the parent. The parent who loves and says yes doesn't need to move. Understand? There is no necessary movement. The one who couldn't receive needs to move, needs to overcome. Yeah, needs to overcome this disturbance, whatever it is, in the relationship to the parent. And of course, again, you can think of other strong sentences of resolution that are applying a yes towards the children. Is anything coming to your mind just spontaneously that I haven't listed here? That's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. Soon. Anything
Nothing's
comes?
coming to my
Yeah.
mind. No, I feel like it's all, yeah.
Complete. Okay, very good. Now we're having an exercise. So our exercise today is applying the word yes. So because we are an uneven number, you go in one group, you three of you, yeah? And we will just change it. So we are 3 members per group. The duration is a little bit longer than 10 minutes. And one of the group is the client. The others representing a parent or a child, or maybe even a partner if you want to, yeah? And the third one is the observer, like the facilitator, yeah? You are not talking, you're just establishing who's who. And everyone gets a turn. So everybody's representing themselves in this exercise at one stage. And then you can also choose who's the observer and who's the representative of your relationship, whatever you want to look at. But then you take turns, so you get to represent everything in this exercise. And then you are not talking for a few minutes, and you find out in your heart as a representative either of yourself or of a part of a relationship of the client who is saying yes. Yeah. And then you wait a little bit, you don't pour it out, and then after a few minutes you can say it. And then you test if it's true or not true. And the one who's observing, take note, who do you think should say yes by what you observe, and then finding out after a few minutes has passed by and the yes is said if you were right with your observation, that the right representative has said yes in this exercise. Okay, and then I will give you I will broadcast a message when to switch. Is that all clear? Yeah. No, Jana, what's not clear?
I'm confused about
I think I'm just confused. I'm not sure what the client and then the person who's determining the yes, the client?
Yes. So let's make an example, Chana. You start as a client. So you're representing yourself.
Okay.
Then you ask Suman to be your father. I'm just saying something. Whatever you want to look at, yeah? So Suman is representing your father, and then Kimberly would be the observer. Yeah? And then you would be quiet for a few minutes and just find, Chana, in your inner self, in your soul, if you want to say yes to your father or not. And Suman, as a representative, will find in herself if she wants to say yes to you as his child or not. Yeah? And then after a few minutes, so you keep the silence and just connect with this emerging feeling. And Kimberly, of course, makes up her mind. What do you think? What you see? No? Who is able to say yes? Who's not able to say yes? And then you say it. Either you, Chana, say it for yourself because you think you want to say yes to your father, or Suman says yes to you because she thinks the father wants to say yes to you.
Okay.
And then Kimberly checks in with herself if she has nailed it or if she would thought because of the observation it would be the other way around. No? Okay. That's how we do it. So I stopped sharing this.
Super helpful.
All right. So hello back. Okay, so let's share. How was it? Who wants to start?
I got to be the client, and then I got to be a mother. We ended up not doing the 3 trades. Something else happened. So I didn't get to be the observer.
Oh, well, how's that?
I think
Did you run out of time?
no, when I was the client and then Chana was my mom, I think we were only supposed to acknowledge the yes and move on. I think we got a little bit more into it with
That was probably me. I
Okay.
kept going with statements with the sentences we just learned. I thought we were trying to get yes. I think I misunderstood.
All right, right. It was only the yes, nothing else to say. Anyhow, so Chana, go. When you were a client, how was that for you? Who was your representative?
Kimberly. Kimberly was, and
representing whom?
My middle sister. I'm the oldest of 3 girls. Yeah. So are you asking, like, was her yes or no accurate?
Who said yes?
For the relationship?
Who said yes, you or Kimberly?
I did.
Okay. And how was that for you?
It actually was very nourishing to say yes to her. She actually texted while we were doing the exercise.
Of course.
I didn't look at it. I just saw that she came through. She came through. So, but we have a very, I'm not surprised Kimberly was a no. Yeah.
Can I share what I felt? Like why?
Yeah.
Like what? I just did not feel seen by you. I did not feel like you saw me as I am. Like you weren't seeing me. You're not seeing me.
So, as an older sister, Shana, it is almost not the same as a parent-child situation, but the yes is kind of appropriate if you feel that towards your little sister. So that the little sister has no yes to you, just means that there is on her side a blockage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and that feels right.
Mm.
So, mhm.
Yeah.
So I
And Suman,
appreciate. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And Suman, when you were observing, did you have the same impression, or what
It was,
did you
yeah,
see? Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mhm.
spot on for me as well, observing it.
What did you
I-
see in Chana that made you think that she needs to say yes, or she's the one to say yes?
It's a space of allowing and just creating this sort of opportunity to see her sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side of that, resonating with Kimberly. It was palpable, as though Kimberly wasn't like, you're seeing me, but you're not seeing me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which is why I think even when
Mhm.
you teared up a little bit, Kimberly, it was very much, you're not seeing me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was very uncomfortable to pull out of the constellation without continue, like just to be in that moment and embodiment, because it was so intense and emotional. And then like, okay, we're going back to this room now. That was very uncomfortable for me. I just to shift that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Okay, and then what was the next one? Who was the client then?
I was
Zoom
the
in.
client and Chana was my mother.
Mhm. And as the mother, I felt a no.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I felt a maybe.
You said what?
Maybe.
A maybe.
It felt like a maybe in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like something wasn't quite honored or something. And that's actually what Kimberly took the cue to say the sentences, and we actually found one that felt right. Right, Suman? We found one that felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It
we
was,
were just about to like get to that. Yes, but
yeah.
you couldn't say, was it thank you?
No,
Was
I
it-
could say thank you. I couldn't say you. I acknowledged that she gave birth to me. She gave me
Right, but
existence.
maybe you could say, I
I-
thank you for my life, or because of you,
Nurturing. I couldn't say thank you for nurturing. But when you pivoted to you gave me life, yes, you gave me life.
Yeah.
so
That's
that
a
would have been
little.
please
Yeah.
for nurturing.
Mm.
We
Sorry.
said- we tried to say please.
Yeah, we tried to say
Please,
please.
that wouldn't work. One of them
Then
wouldn't
yes.
work.
Yeah. Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Thank
when the mother cannot say yes, you cannot work with the child. So this is why this is not a constellation. This was an exercise to find the yes, not to go anywhere. Yeah, because you're
Mhm.
reveling on the wrong end
Mm.
of the yarn here.
Because then you have to go to others' parents
Here we have the mother problem. Yeah, a mother blockage
from the mother.
that that leads us into a constellation. Then, yeah.
May I ask, Suman, does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Ah.
Deeply so. Yeah. Yeah. There's a block in my relationship with my mother. Overbearing, and then it resonates with me why you couldn't say yes or no, because it's very temperamental on how I'm showing up,
Right.
which is how she'll show up. So yeah, deeply resonates.
Mhm. Very good. Okay, and then we had Kimberly as the client.
We
We
ran
didn't
out
get
of time.
Oh, you didn't go there. I see.
Do we have time to do it or no?
Yeah,
Are we out of time?
do it now. Yeah,
We could you want to do it real quick?
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. You go.
pick your poison, Kimberly.
I'm trying to think, what am I gonna do? Oh, we'll just do it here. Okay. Let's see here. Suman, will you be my father? And Chana, the observer.
Got it.
Yes, 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 yes.
Is it true?
Yes.
Good.
And
Okay, very good.
so 2 yeses. Hmm.
So Kimberly, how was it for you?
It just felt so good. It just felt really good. I went back to just being a little girl and being seen by my dad as a little child, and
Mhm.
seeing him as, you know, my daddy, my big dad. I mean,
Mhm.
Yep, when I was with you, Kimberly, I heard the words, "You're proud of me, aren't you?" This anticipatory proudness, something like that.
Mhm.
Just like, yes.
I felt like I literally like I heard like, you know, like you're the apple of my eye. Like I just felt like the apple of my dad's eye.
Mhm.
I wanted to consume you.
Mm.
Very good.
Mhm.
Very good. Very good. So wonderful. So that was our little exercise in applying the word yes and observing the energy and finding out if it's true, acknowledging what is. I leave you to go in the break now. And then we will meet again, let's say 15 minutes. It is then 25 to the full hour. Yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we continue with the second part of today.
Thank you.
See you, Kimberly.
Hi there, Maya. When you were talking about the orders of the victim perpetrator, the yes, please, thank you. What was that order?
Victim perpetrator is not child parent, so it always starts with a yes, then with a please to intensify the relationship, and then with a thank you to finish the relationship.
So it's the same as partner to partner.
Yep, yep. There is, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably not the same sentences of resolutions, but the same order of
In
words.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just learned from the last thing that we just did that as soon as parent can't say yes, go to their parents.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
Good, very good. All right. Now we are looking at the yes in specific in partnership, and I'm talking about romantic relationships. So, of course, there are lots of parent issues coming up in a constellation or when a client comes, but also relationship issues, of course. So, at the beginning of a romantic relationship, no, there is the yes. The yes is also, I am now free to be with you. Why would you say that? Because there wouldn't be a problem in the relationship if there would be the yes, right? So you wouldn't have a client, they wouldn't come. So they only come because there is not this yes from the partner. So that's the most likely situation. The most likely situation is that your client says yes or is in the state of yes, and the partner is not yet. And now in the constellation, we need to find out why and how can we help with. And I give it away, or no, I don't give it away because you know that already. First order of love, belonging. So when you have a client who has a partner, of course the partner belongs to her family system, right? Who else belongs to her family system from the side of her partner? Their parents? Kimberly? Oh, hang on, I'm not recording.
Um,
Oh yeah, I am recording. Okay.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking, this is the partner, is this the, like a first partner or current partner?
Yes.
This is.
The former partners and the current partner,
Right.
yeah.
So
So not the
former,
parent.
yeah, not the parent.
Exactly. So what happens if you have a constellation where the client comes to you, has a problem with the partner, and the partner shows, you know, let's say an interrupted movement towards the mother, his mother, obviously. What are we doing?
Would you work on that partner's mother?
Can you?
Well, they're a part of the system. The partner's a part of the system.
Mm-hmm. And the mother?
And if there's a block of love flow there,
And the mother is this part of the family system, yes or no?
no,
No. So can you work with the mother of the partner?
probably not.
No. You can't. So
Okay.
what is the problem here? So let's put it that way, not the problem. Where do you work then with?
This is where this is interesting because, you know, I'm telling you, I'm working on stuff in my own family and I feel like I'm connected with a great aunt. And I just discovered today that within the constellation, I haven't verified it yet, but that her lover, who she thought she would marry, married another person. And I didn't know how to resolve that. So this is interesting. I don't know what to do with, I'm stuck in this constellation right now.
Well, let's come back to our problem with the mother.
Yeah.
Same thing, maybe a little bit another angle.
Mm-hmm.
You have a client and the client is unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And the ego mind always wants to blame it on others.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. The client has chosen a partner that doesn't choose her.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. That's the problem. We are not fixing the partner's problems, which we are not supposed to do, and we can't, and give the illusion of a happy ending for our client. Yeah. So in a family constellation, you see a partner that is not ready for the partnership. You leave it there. There's nothing to do. Right? You work with your client and see, why did you choose a partner that's not available? What's the issue here? Why didn't you choose a partner that is available? Right? So that's a little trap to fall into, right? And I've seen it a lot of times, right? But you won't, of course, now you know it. When we say at the beginning, I'm now free to be with you, it's for the client to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you worked with the client. Let's say the client has, the client has an unhappy relationship maybe feels like it doesn't work for her, and you see that the partner of hers is saying yes to her, but she's not, then you can work with her. With her mother, with her father, with her ancestors, with whatever dynamic comes up. And if that has moved her soul towards love and acknowledging the partner, then the sentence of resolution is for her to say, I'm now free to be with you. Because before she wasn't. Although she may want it to. Right? So that's a strong sentence here. So then we have, I see you and your love. That's a yes. That's a little yes. It's not yes, I love you. You see the difference? But it's yes, I see you and your love. So that's a step forward. Or I'm now fully available for you, same as the first sentence, no, just different wordings. Or what else do we have? And that's basically it, what you come up with, sentences of resolutions at the beginning of partnership. That wants to convey a yes or a little version of the yes. At the end of the partnership, a yes would be something like, my love will stay even if I have to leave. So if you have destiny relationships, and the family constellation shows that you have to leave, like you, like the client, or the other one, or the partner has to leave, of course, nobody is holding them back. Yeah, that's important. The soul moves in the direction of their own soul journey. Yeah, we are not applying any happy ending Hollywood scenario in our family constellation. That's acknowledging what is. But sometimes it is hard to go when love is still felt. And then the sentence of resolution is, my love will stay even if I have to leave. That allows the soul to move on and still be connected through love. Unconditional love, by the way. Not that my love will stay even if I have to leave and you will never have another partner than me. That's not, it's this unconditional, nourishing love. I love you, and that what is guiding us. That's also a very strong sentence of resolution. That's in a complicated relationship. Yeah, when one partner cannot stay, or both partners cannot stay, but love is still felt. I love you, and that what is guiding us. It's the destiny, or God, or in a religious context, or however you want to call it. Yeah. This is how you separate an entanglement that is in the way of a relationship, or in the way of leaving a relationship. Yes, Shana.
What do you mean by in destiny relationships?
So, well, I talk about that in module 1, but I will quickly explain that to you. Relationships are not random. You are normally finding the partner that your soul is looking for, even if you don't understand it, for reasons that are out of this world, that have been destined in another realm before you met. And these destiny relationships we see in family constellations in different ways, and we have to acknowledge that. So we don't make it a problem, It's not where we work on, we acknowledge that. Okay. Then a very nice sentence of resolution is, you'll always have a place in my heart, if it's true, of course. That also helps to leave a relationship and a balance, and don't leave any disorder behind. And that is a strong one. If there are mutual children, yeah, through our children, we will always be connected. That's a clear yes, right? Acknowledging the connection that will always stay through our children. So there doesn't need to be love felt anymore, and most likely isn't. But in order to leave to separate partners in a good way, so that there is no resentment and no disorder that will cause disruptions maybe in the future partners or in the descendants, in the children or grandchildren. In order to do that, you would suggest to say, then when there are children, through our children, we will always be connected. So then we have different other, a couple of other relationships. We apply yes in a different way. So although yes is always a flow of love, of course, right? It can be also combined with honor and respect, especially towards the ancestor. Yeah, I honor you and your death, or you and your destiny. Yeah, I honor. I'm not fighting it. I'm honoring it. Yeah? And that's of course a yes. I acknowledge your destiny. And then I give you a place in my heart is also here. A good way to let go of the ancestor and the entanglement, but still be connected through love. There is a relationship to God. God does appear sometimes in family constellations. It normally appears when you are working with a client or a family of a client who is religious or a strong religious in any way, could be any way, and then you can choose a representative for God. Of course, God, this kind of God is not like the beardly father in the heavens. In fact, it is normally representing the father, anyhow, a father issue. But we are not kind of thinking that up. We are observing it. We're looking at it. If it's the case, it can also be a representative of another forefather, of another ancestor, who has a strong impact on the family system. Especially this religious God who is revengeful and ruling and judging, and you know, this kind of religious God that often then wants to stand on a pedestal, or in an in-person workshop they stand on a chair or something like that, like this. So this is kind of the God who is representing a power structure in the family system. The true God, if you work with the true God, that's of course the acknowledgement that you are, or it's in you, that you are the same. So that's the healing movement. But that's just when you have a context with the true spiritual God, not the revengeful religious God, right? That's two different, how can I say, two different pictures that are painted here, yeah, in the constellation. Kimberly, what's your question?
I just I've never had God. I've never experienced a constellation with God. And I'm just sort of wondering, you know, when, like, how would you know to introduce that? Like, what would be like a scenario? Like, why would you introduce somebody? Like, I'm assuming somebody's assigned to represent God.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So how do you do that? I guess I don't know.
So there are several. I can think of several occasions when that was appropriate. Often is when you see that in the body language, when you're working with a representative of the family and they are kind of going on their knees and whatever, they are, you know, they want to pray, or there are some hints that, you know, we have here one of the religious gods is in play, yeah. So that is then representing one of the forefathers, most likely, who has still an impact on the family system because there's something not cleared. And the other God is the source. So that would be, remember, first order of love. The source is always part of the family system. And this is what I'm talking about here is the source, the God, where the love comes from, the light comes from, right? So when you have this this ripple through all the generations of a certain pattern, yeah, which doesn't seem to end, right? Then there would be a yes towards the source. Then you could place a representative for the source God, and then there with the yes would be I am you and you are me, or now I see you in me, right? So there's the connection, the flow of love is coming from there, right? Yes, Chana?
Yeah, I was just gonna share too. I would in one constellation, God was brought in as a resource.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, instead of nature or something. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Kimberly.
When you're saying that God is the source from where love comes from and from the beginning, that doesn't mean the initial source, right? That's just how far back we're going, because the
We are
source is
going back
always love.
7 generations plus the source. So we are skipping everything in between.
So
The 7th
is it
generation.
possible that the source wouldn't be pure love?
No,
So it can't be a
that's
problem.
that's a religious concept of good and evil.
So there couldn't be a problem with the
No.
actual source, is what I'm saying. There couldn't be a problem with the actual source. Okay. And then, Chana, how did you realize to introduce God? Like, did the client wanted a God, or like, how did you know, like, to bring God in? Is what I'm
Well,
curious.
the constellator asked what would be a resource for you for the person being constellated who
I
was
see.
having
And so
trouble
they
staying
chose-
regulated.
And so they chose God as their source. Okay, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also had already I remember now I also had the devil there once.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how was that chosen?
I can't barely remember. It was strange because, of course, these are artificial constructs, right? And we are only dealing with orders of love, first order of love, people who belong. So obviously that is an evil element, or how would you call it, a bad guy from the family system who is most likely dismissed. The one who's missing, the one we need to bring in to heal the family wound. That's the normally. The representative of it. But yeah, the good thing is every they can name if they say, oh, I think I need the devil here, so you can bring them in, because in the end they will represent a family member. Yeah, so you don't need to worry at the beginning who is that. It will
Right.
reveal itself. Yeah.
And you're saying when they choose God, that's usually a father figure?
Yeah, it often is, but it can also be a forefather. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Okay, cool.
May
Yes.
I ask one question? Is this the
Sure.
right time, Maya?
Yep.
So what if a client feels more like a victim of their parents than the child of their parents?
Aha. Meaning, or when would that be?
Like in a constellation, if you're working with restoring love, the flow of love, and the client doesn't see themselves anymore as a child, like they recognize how the child in them feels, but they identify as a victim of their parents' parenting skills or lack thereof.
So that's most often 99% an interrupted movement towards the parent, early childhood trauma, which we talk in module 4 in detail about. In rare occasions, it can be an entanglement with the victim of the family system. And then you would have a double, like Bert Hellinger calls it, a double entanglement. Yeah, the child is entangled with the victim. Let's say 4 generations ago, let's say a war situation. Yeah, and the child is entangled, or is mixing up the parent for the perpetrator.
Yes.
Right. So that
Yes,
can
that
happen.
makes sense.
Yeah. But
Okay.
most often it would be an
Thank you.
interrupted movement. Yeah.
Thank you.
Interrupted movement means the child is taking over the parent's role.
No, we go through that in module 4. So hold your horses. Very good. Okay. So yes, in a relationship to a victim, meaning from a perpetrator to a victim, is now I see your pain. Because before it wasn't seen. In I don't know a number, maybe in 80% of victim-perpetrator dynamics, the perpetrator is not aware of the pain and hurt they cause. The rest are psychopaths who enjoy, you know, who enjoy to create pain and suffering, but most often they are not aware because they're not looking at their victim. They don't see it because they feel, obviously, guilt, right? That makes them look away. So the yes in a relationship from a perpetrator to a victim is, now I see your pain, now I see your suffering, now I see the pain I have caused you, or the hurt, or what it is. And then from a victim to a perpetrator is the yes is you belong to me and I belong to you, we are the same. Because the victim is feeling righteous, yeah, superior to the perpetrator often, because society also is supporting that, of course, on an ego mind level. And therefore can't look at the perpetrator or looks at the perpetrator with being different. Yeah. Like the perpetrator is a bad guy, I'm the good guy. Yeah. But in family constellations, we know that the healing movement of the victim is towards the perpetrator to acknowledge that they're both part of the same coin. It's both, you know, victim and perpetrator are flip sides of the same coin. They are the same. There is no victim without a perpetrator. There is no perpetrator without the victim. Yeah. And this acknowledgement is a yes towards the perpetrator. Then we have the advantage and disadvantage giver. That's pretty much the same, other than there is no death involved, but depth. I can never pronounce that. So that would then say, I'm honoring my debt to you, right? Because he has taken something that wasn't that he has never balanced, that he has never given anything for. So there's a debt. Kimberly, I can't hear you.
I think you mean debt, like something
Debt.
that is owed, a
Yeah.
debt.
Debt.
Yes.
Debt.
Okay. On my
Not
debt. Yes.
death and debt. Debt.
Depth is like going deep, and debt
Oh,
is
I see. So I misspelled it.
Owed. Yeah. It's DEBT, and that's something owed is a debt. Is something that
DEBT, of course, and
Yeah.
that is PT. Okay, very
Yeah.
good. So I will
Honoring
correct
my
that.
debt to you.
Interesting that after all these years, you're the first one to give me the right spelling. So
I say yes to a teacher.
so that is the right sentence to say in that case, yeah, to acknowledge that, because that wouldn't be acknowledged before. Think of the Nazi Germans who took, let's say, the land and the business of a Jewish family away with not paying anything, and they would just been sent to the concentration camp, right? And that would be in the family constellation then the yes. Yeah. I honoring my debt to you. And then the other way around, the one who had a disadvantage would now would say, now I see your desperation, or something similar. That is also coming from the field, right? These sentences. But there's always a sentence that is right, that is true, and that speaks to the soul. And as you can see, it's always short and to the point and simple, right? Good. Okay, so that was about the word yes and the sentences of resolution. Is there any general questions that you haven't asked yet that we might want to talk about before we move on? All good? Yes, Jana?
Yeah, I hope it's okay to ask. Just let me know if it isn't. But So I know my grandmother lost in Sicily all her land and her home and her people. And I often feel like I'm buying my own house for her, not my kids,
Yep, very
right?
likely.
Very likely. And but it's an honor. Like I was thinking of the word debt. Like it's not a debt, but I feel like I'm honoring her in a way.
Okay.
Is that a distorted way of looking at it?
You have to ask your grandmother
Oh,
if
well,
she wants that.
yes, we'll have to have a constellation then because
Yeah, definitely.
she's not here.
Maybe we have time here in the module for an exercise.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Dynamics in family systems. So belonging, conscience, guilt, and destiny forming three basic dynamics in a family system. First, it's atonement for my sin, and that's related to the word yes. Sometimes it's also translated as a reparation for my sins. The second one is related to the word please. We talk about tomorrow, and it is the rather me than you dynamic. And the third is the I follow you dynamic. That is related to the word thank you. So we are talking about and all of them are a breach of the orders of love, and therefore will come up in a family constellation. So this gives you the structure. You are not only looking for relationships in a family constellation and what's not in order on the soul level, you're also looking for dynamics in a family constellation and what's not in order there to find that what mends it. Let's talk about atonement for my sin. What does it mean? It is a violation of the first order of love, belonging, conscience, and guilt. We have to ask ourselves, what are sins? Anybody has a definition that want to share? What do you think? What are sins? Yes, Shana.
Mine comes from Eastern psychology. To miss the mark with the soul.
To miss the mark with the soul. That's interesting. What mark?
Yeah. To be aligned in alignment with is called a sin.
That's interesting. That's the first interesting definition I've heard about from the sin. Very, very nice. So then we have, of course, a religious. Yeah, Kimberly, what definition do you want to share? Have you just Googled it?
It would the sin would be to go against the conscience belief system, whatever the conscious belief system
Yes,
is.
very good. That's from module 1. Exactly. And then, of course, we have the religious sin, which comes up normally going against the will of God. Now, in family constellation, we only define sin as the feeling of personal guilt. And as we have talked in module 1 about, guilt is a mind construct that doesn't exist. Things are as they are, right? So I make this example with this accident. Let's imagine you drive with your car in the evening back home from a friend. You have not drinking anything. You are not tired. You are not under drugs. You are not speeding. Nothing. Yeah, you just drive home, and boom, you drive over a person, and they are killed. There's nothing you could have done, right? We call that also like the hand of God, if you will. You were the hand of God. Because maybe this person wanted to commit suicide. Who knows, right? Nothing you could have done. Nevertheless, you would feel guilty. There's no way that you just shrug your shoulders and say it is what it is. You know? You would think, oh, if I would have started 5 minutes earlier, I would have missed them. Or if I would have stopped to look at my text messages, I would have missed, you would, this is all going on in the mind. Has nothing to do with the fact that this could never ever have been different. Regardless what you would have done, yeah, that was destined to happen for some reason that you're not even aware of, right? So even in this simple example of an accident, we are already dealing with guilt, with this feeling of personal guilt, although guilt is nothing objective. Guilt is not because somebody had the intention to kill. This is not more or less guilt than an accident. Yeah, it is just being responsible for actions, or karma, as it says, right? Cause and effect. That's all there is. So we have several definitions of sins. When we are talking about sins, when we talk about atonement for my sins, we are looking at the feeling of personal guilt. That's what we are looking at. And that's what you see in a family constellation. A representative will express this feeling of guilt. So we talked about guilt and ego. Guilt is always ego-made, is not objectively detectable. It's a mind construct. And therefore, atonement for this feeling of guilt is not necessary or possible. Right? And the misconception of that is leading to an entanglement. Another example, let's let this accident happen in 1950. Yeah? And it was your grandfather who was driving. And your daughter would feel guilty. She would create life circumstances that made her appear guilty. Put it that way. Yeah? Because she's entangled with her great-grandfather. She is feeling this feeling of guilt like he did. Yeah. And that's the dynamic. That's what we call atonement for my sins. She feels this sins of the great-grandfather as their own, although she has no reconciliation or, of course, no knowledge of this incident. And in order to rectify that, she will create life circumstances in her life that make her, that doesn't need to be, accidents or anything like that. It could be something else that make her feel guilty. Yeah. And that is the dynamic that we see in family constellations. Of course, there's also the dynamic. Let's let the accident happen at 2022 or 23. It could be either their own actions or the actions of a forefather. Always both, goes always both ways, yeah, for this dynamic. But most often we see the entanglement with somebody in the ancestral line. So what is a healing word when we have a dynamic like this? So first of all, just for you as a mantra to memorize, if you see this feeling of personal guilt, you think of the dynamic reparation or atonement for my sins. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Then the next step, you only have to find out, is it for something that this representative has been done or something that happened in the past? That's the next step. What is the healing word? Remember what we talked about? What is the healing word?
I see you.
And the word, just the word? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I see you did that, like in this entanglement. Yes, I see you did that, not me. That's just acknowledging what is. So the entangled, say, great-grandchild has to look at the great-grandfather and see and acknowledge that it was his actions, not hers. Yeah. And then the great-grandfather has to see that she's entangled with him and has to acknowledge that as well. And then take over responsibility towards the victim. Because most likely the great-grandfather is not able, because of this feeling of perceived guilt, to look at the victim. So the healing move here is that the let's say perpetrator, the both parts of the accident, is looking at the victim and acknowledging that they belong together. And then acknowledging that then there is no feeling of guilt. The feeling of guilt will be relieved. And then the great-granddaughter also can release her feeling of guilt. And the circumstances she has created in her life that made her feel guilty would vanish. Not needed anymore. No remembrance of this dynamic once it's cleared. Okay? So the healing movement is the perpetrator towards the victim, acknowledging, yes, we belong together. And then for the entangled girl, seeing that, seeing the grandfather acknowledging, yes, it's your action, not mine. Of course, we're not saying guilt because we're not acknowledging guilt because it doesn't exist, right? We don't say, yes, you are guilty. No, that's not what we say. We're saying it's simply neutral, your actions, your responsibility, not mine. So this dynamic, and if you think of this example with the accident, is leading to also diseases, accidents, suicides, and death. Yeah, all in the attempt to atone for somebody else's sin. And that doesn't need to be in your client. It could be also a repeated pattern in the ancestors. We always go back to the first, where it started. So there could be a suicide, let's say for this, let's take the same example with the great-grandchild. Her father committed suicide when he was 40. Probably at the same age as the victim of the grandfather. You know, that's often the case. And then the grandchild, or the child in this case, would feel guilty, doesn't know why, no, for the suicide of the father, and would suffer greatly under that, you know, because of the entanglement with the great-grandfather. So that's just an example. Could lead to anorexia, or could lead to drug abuse, or could lead to living on the streets, not having a job, no? Or could lead to childlessness, although they want a child, anything really. A severe allergy, food allergy, maybe is not capable of intaking any food, right? Things like that. So always check in when you see this feeling of guilt. Is this perceived personal guilt or an entanglement with somebody else's action? It is always, every dynamic of the three dynamics that you see in family constellations, always showing a deep love, completely unconsciously, a deep love to the person who has caused, through their action, the death of another person. Yeah. This is this love connection that they have. And that's established by the family soul. Because the family soul don't want this incident to be forgotten. Yeah, the family soul wants this imbalance, that perpetrator and victim are not acknowledging each other, to be not forgotten. And therefore descendants are feeling these emotions and creating life circumstances that is reflecting this. unconsciously. Atonement is to look at the dead and realize his or her destiny with love. That's the really atonement. Huh? But what happens in normal life is people looking away from that accident because, or the incident, because it would hurt or it would be painful to do that, right? And this looking away is the obstruction of the order of love. You are denying a person who belongs to the family system their rightful place. Yeah, by not looking, by not acknowledging either the victim or the perpetrator. So atonement is to look at the dead and realize his or her destiny with love, either oneself or another family system member with whom she is entangled. The finding the real victim perpetrator and let them face each other, releasing the entangled person from their duty. That's what happens. And then there will this natural instinct. So before the healing movement, turning towards the victim in our example, before this took place, through the word yes, before this took place, there is this, the great-grandfather will look at the great-grandchild. And is almost fascinated or obsessed with that as a replacement for the victim. Yeah. Not to look at the victim, they look at the child. So this is how you see it in a family constellation. Why do you know there must be a victim that is not shown? Because there is this feeling of guilt. One of the representatives will say, I feel guilty. Yeah. That's how you know, that's the dynamic. Yes, Kimberly.
You mentioned earlier something about the victim perpetrator not looking at each other. Was it the perpetrator can't see the victim, or the victim doesn't look at the perpetrator? I can't
Can be
remember which
both. In
one.
our example, we were talking about the perpetrator not seeing the victim. Of course, can be both.
So
And
it's
remember,
very common. They
yeah,
don't see each other.
yeah. One is normally not looking. It's rarely that both are not looking. It's normally just one. Yeah.
And do you find that more victim or perpetrator, or
Both.
about even?
Both.
Both.
So when you have in this example the perpetrator, then the victim is not looked at, meaning is not acknowledged in the family system, meaning a violation of the first order of love.
Mhm.
It has no place in the family system because the perpetrator feels guilty and doesn't want to look at the victim and admit the pain. Yeah.
So when somebody says they're feeling guilty, we know victim perpetrator.
Yeah.
And that's probably the perpetrator, right? Because they're feeling
Most
guilty.
likely.
Yeah.
Because the victim normally feels ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this, so now remember, just to make sure you get it all, the whole picture, who is not looking cannot say yes, right? Remember? So when the perpetrator is not looking at the victim, the perpetrator cannot say to the victim yes, but the victim is looking at the perpetrator, so the victim can say to the perpetrator, yes, I see you and you hurt me, acknowledging what is. That made the perpetrator look at the victim. Or most likely, the entangled great-grandchild looks at the victim instead of the perpetrator. That's the entanglement, right? So the great-grandchild looks at the victim and says, oh, I see you, I love you, but I feel guilty or something, you know, blah, blah, blah. So whatever, you find that, whatever she says. And then the victim would most likely answer, feels good about it, but it doesn't heal anything. So this is how you know there is no dynamic. That's not the dynamic. The dynamic is between the third person. And then, because there is this love bond between the ancestor, great-grandfather, and the great-grandchild, no? Then you can suggest, because the great-grandfather would look at the great-grandchild, then you would suggest to the great-grandfather to say, can you see your great-grandchild and how it's suffering. And they don't want that. So that is then the yes, the acknowledging what is. Hmm? And then eventually the perpetrator can release the great-grandchild from this unjust suffering and turn towards the victim and take over responsibility to make sure the great-grandchild is not suffering anymore. So, just to complicate it a little bit, all these dynamics can be combined, and they often are, right? But it doesn't matter. You always go step by step. You find one dynamic and then the other. So that's not that they are intertwining. It's just they can be combined and you see them in the same constellation. Yeah. So when you think about this dynamic, and then you always have to think, what is denied here? Where is the block? Where's the rock? No? Where's the love not flowing? What's denied here, right? And it is always denied the relationship with the victim or the perpetrator for that. In our example, the victim. Yeah, the relationship with the victim is denied because it's too painful, because of this feeling of guilt. So the atonement is instead of looking at the victim and acknowledging the relationship, right? Paying a price for it. For example, with the life of the great-grandchild. That would be the price to pay. That's the atonement. Which doesn't work, obviously. Yeah. But that's a perceived atonement or reparation for this perceived sin. So what needs to be acknowledged? That the sin is forming a lasting relationship. That needs to be acknowledged. That it is not a sin, it's a relationship. Yeah, with the victim. And the eye contact finally, and the acknowledgement, and not the looking away, will heal. And then also doing something good to honor the victim is also healing, especially if it's not in the past. Yeah, if you have the situation in the present, then it is always good to give the victim a place, not a shrine or something, but just something, an object or a prayer or a song or a poem or whatever, yeah, to make sure the victim is acknowledged as part of the family system. So instead, and all of this is healing, but instead, most often, and this is why we have this dynamic, yeah, there is this trying to pay reparations for a sin with a disease, with living alone, with paying reparations, with not leading a full life, or even with suicide sometimes. It also happens. So when do we have this dynamic? We had this accident as a matter of example. Of course, it could be also a mother aborting a child, a war situation, any other crime you can think of. It could be really anything which causes the death of another child or of another person, intentionally or not. That doesn't matter. What heals here is the dedication, the devotion, and the commitment towards the victim relationship. And this feeling, this perceived feeling of personal guilt is just a substitute to avoid going through the pain and doing what's needed, connecting with the victim through love. Okay, here we are. We have another exercise. Let's see how we do that with our group of 3. Ah, yeah, perfect. We need a group of 3. So I would like you to go in the breakout room and discuss what guilt means for you. And this is not recorded, so you can be frank and open your heart if you want to, yeah, and go through if there are any feelings of guilt, go through that openly and find the source of it. Kimberly, was that your question?
Want to clarify, do you mean guilt or guild? Guild our connection to our family, or guilt when we feel guilty for doing something?
Guilt with a T. I have another.
Okay.
Wonderful.
okay.
I will get all my slides in order today with the help from you. Hang on. I just put the
Well, astrologically, I would say I have my moon in Virgo, so I'm very into details.
Yeah, very good. It's also that's fantastic. Yeah, no, guilt with a T. What means guilt for you? And you discuss it, yeah, as open as you want to, of course. And then think about, when did you feel guilty? When was this feeling coming up? What incident was it? How old were you? Can you remember it? And then, of course, why? And then we have 10 minutes or a little bit longer. It depends. I leave it to you how long you want to be in there. I will give you a 10-minute warning, and then you can tell me if you want to longer or not in a discussion. And what the purpose of this exercise is, to find out for yourself, so you feel it yourself. Yeah. If this feeling of guilt has any ground, there's any, reason for it, if you or not, right? So really to experience for yourself, because if you haven't experienced it for yourself and it stays a mind concept, then you cannot see it in a family constellation. Yeah. It is really, you can barely notice anything that you haven't experienced yourself. Yeah. And because we are all intent, because the feeling of guilt is difficult, if not impossible to live with, we are disguising any kind of feeling of guilt with other feelings. Yeah. We are overlaying it. So we don't need to feel guilt. We are feeling other feelings, which could be anger. It could be grief. It could be, different, impatient. It could be all sorts of things. Yeah. And you just go as far as you want to go. The exercise is for you. It's just lovely to have that in a private group. It's easier to share, as if sitting in your room and trying to think about it, because you're exchanging, and by talking about it, you might find for yourself some some examples that come up, and then you think, oh yes, actually a really feeling of guilt comes up. Okay. And of course, if you have the time, you can also release it. By what do you do? You use the word yes.
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 The word yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's put you in the breakout room.